In this tutorial, I want to talk about Groove Animator's text features. Now, what I want to explain is that this is a little different than what you might be used to in other programs. The assumption for the first iteration of Groove Animator's text feature is that you want to outline the strokes, as I've done here in this sample here. And in order to do that, what we actually do is we take the font that you specify and the text that you specify, and the size and the stroke thickness and the color or whatever, we actually turn that into an SVG image. So if I take this here, I'm going to go ahead and apply a different thickness, and I'll add that text here, and you can see that it's actually taken that font and outlined it. Now if I want to create kind of more of a traditional looking text, I can actually go ahead and fill that. So let's go ahead and give that a fill. And I'll actually leave the stroke, the color the same, and I'll go ahead and make this thickness down here. And if I add that, it looks a little bit more like traditional text. And also what ends up happening is whatever I have here will also be reflected. So if let's say I add some different text, hello. Often what it'll do, especially if I'm going to go ahead and select a different font here, and you can see here that when I did that, it's reflecting my my stroke and my fill color. It's giving me an indication of what it's going to look like when it gets out there. Again, I did need to change the font, but you'll notice that it does change it here. But if I go and I click on add text or whatever, it's not going to edit this. This has already been converted into an SVG file, so it's not going to edit that at all. Just like adding any other image, it's going to be empty. It's not going to have any animation. You're going to need to apply that later on. So you can do that. Now, when you've got the stroke thickness, the animation for these strokes isn't going to look as good, but there are other animations that you can do. So for example, let's do a move in here, and let's make that duration last a little longer so I can actually kind of see it. And I'll leave the bounce effect there. And now I can apply that animation to this. And you can see here that there are some animation possibilities that I can apply to something like this as well. So you have the ability in this first version of Groove Animator to kind of get some fonts that look a little bit more traditional. Now we are going to be adding kind of a more traditional, editable kind of font feature as well. But the first version of text in Groove Animator is designed on the assumption that you want to do this cool strokes animation on the text also, that unique effect that is really not available on any other program. It's really kind of in the general JVZoo market anyways. It's something that you can accomplish with something like After Effects. But otherwise, this is a relatively new and fresh feature, and so that's why it's doing it this way. So I just understand that once you click on add text, it's not editable text anymore, and if you want to make new text and so forth, you can. I'm going to point out one more thing. I'll do a remove all here to get rid of everything, and I can add, let's do how are you. I can add additional lines of fonts there. I can have 2 lines, but it's going to have them on top of each other. Now, it's another thing that we'll probably be adding in a very soon to be added feature, is that they'll be kind of offset, but they're still doing, still converting them to fonts, and they're still not editable. It just is allowing you to have more than one, line of text if you want to add that. So that's the basics of the first version of Groove Animator's text feature. And again, look for additional text options in upcoming versions of Groove Animator.